Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wang. I'm from UPM. I am a PhD candidate. My major is landscape study. Today is my pleasure here to sharing my work. My research topic is advancing cultural landscapes through a visual quality assessment framework, a literature review. I will share my work from two aspects. First is introduction, second is literature review. The first is research background. Considering the rapid changes and ecological rules caused by urbanization, industrialization, and intensive agriculture in cultural landscape, the increasing involvement of the public in defining the landscape quality objectives since 2000 has become evident. This change highlights the growing concern for landscape quality. Tourism environments are now sought to provide not only basic satisfaction but also aesthetically pleasing and culturally enriched experience. Consequently, the satisfaction and enjoyment of users are increasingly linked to the quality of the visual landscape. Importantly, the impact of visual perception, individual preference, and spatial requirements on landscape visual quality is profound. This understanding layers the foundation and comprehending the demands of users in terms of visual quality. In fact, recognizing what visual quality users require contributes not only to the perception and the sustainability of the environments, but also support the pursuit of landscape quality assessments. This dual purpose ensures that while environmental protection is addressed, people's aspiration for aesthetic and cultural value are also met. And this is also the research background from three aspects. First is tourism background. The increasing cultural heritage tourism is rapid developing. And the second is the increasing demands. The people's in perceiving and experience in cultural landscapes. So their tourism increasing demands. And the third is the visual quality assessments. The method and the standards, particularly in visual behaviors, natural elements, and public psychology, the methods also needed. So, from three aspects, first is cultural landscape preserving, drawing attention due to the UNESCO recognition, gaining interest from scientists, policymakers, and public. The second is cultural landscape tourism forced immersive experience in both nature and the cultural landscape, invoking emotional resonance. The detection of the natural landscape and the depletion of limited natural resource cause escalating presence of visual pollution due to the increasing tourism demands. And from the problem statements, the globally and the locally. From the globally, the first increasing tourism demands has led to environmental degradation and overuse. Unclear protection objectives, unclear identification of the visual assistive value elements of world cultural heritage sites, geography settings and culture that are significantly different, difficult in using a set of framework, absence of conscious or theory hampers validating perception-based assessments. And locally, because my research site is in the cultural heritage site, Lushan. So this is the locally in China. The first is lack of a appropriate planning method for the integration with the surrounding environment. Second, economy-oriented tourism developments induce visual degradation, lack of users' consent assessments, policy planning oriented rather than needs oriented, and the value of cultural landscape has been overlooked. The visual enhancements and environmental conservation. And this research have three research gaps. The first is strategy in research methodology, geography, location gap, and knowledge in visual quality assessment framework gap. To fulfill this gap, the research aim is to construct a theoretical and conceptual framework through a comprehensive literature review to understand the role of visual quality assessments in enhancing the cultural landscape. The objective is to synthesize the theoretical and conceptual frameworks through an intensive literature review, aiming to enhance comprehension of visual quality assessment's role in cultural landscape improvement. The research question is how can the development of the theoretical and the conceptual framework be effectively supported by conducting a through literature review. And this is the conceptual and the theoretical framework. Its name, Aesthetic Value Quality Research Conducted in Chinese Park, comes from the idea landscape aesthetic. Basically, visual quality study is about looking into how objectives and subjectives relate to each other, as shown in this figure, the routines in 1999. This author writes, the lakes, road, and the recreation area are examples of landscape elements that are called objective, and aesthetic quality is another word for goals in survey. Finding goals in aesthetic value quality study involves looking the picture close to find landscape features that can be measured. For finding goals that affect aesthetic value, this study follows Brown and Interlis. In 1982, advice. Objectives for landscape fall into two groups, nature landscape and man-made landscape. So the subjective in routines 1999 refer to the things that people think about, like safety, complexity, and coherence, and how these things are influenced by physical properties. This subjective is also called visual choice in this study. As shown in this figure, the study of assessed value, the environmental choice mode, and the prospect post-stat refuge theory are the most important theories. Many assessed value research studies has looked at things like surprise, complexity, readability, coherence, openness, and safety. Behavior research mostly use GIS to keep track of the people's movements paths. Observations is used to map behaviors in study because there is no computer map of this research site. So I choose the theory of the observing play and the recreation in communities was used to look into how people who live and visit in Chinese park behavior. In 2006, Cancer the author found the guest activities could be categorized as a secondary, regular, and moderate. So park researchers has used the classification a lot to look into how parks size affect people's behavior. Because of this, the system of observing play and recreation in communities I use the gather information about how artists value and affect behavior. Um, in summary, the point of this study is to look into how people's visual preference affect how they act in parks. Series that support the work include the landscape aesthetic philosophy, the environmental preference modes, and the prospect refuge theory and assessments and management of the landscape, and the methods of watching people play and realize in the communities. This theory, based on the routines 1999, describe objective properties and subjective source and human actions. Therefore, this study look at nature landscape, artificial landscape, and the nature landscape, and the complexity, mystery, legibility, coherence, openness, safety, the secondary and the moderate and the regular activities are variable in this research. Finally, this study aimed to understand how visual quality assessment contributes to enhancing the cultural landscape through a comprehensive literature review. It synthesizes a theoretical and a conceptual framework from device perspective, methodologies, and findings. This research highlights the importance of a solid theoretical foundation, offering an insight for future studies and a practical application, increasing enriched and aesthetically pleasing cultural landscape. Thank you for listening.